Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Owens from the Reimagine Schools podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to right now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
This is one of your two co-hosts, William Illingworth, joined by Joshua Swartz. You there, my friend?
I am here, ready to go, and excited to kick off another podcast episode.
You're excited? Excited? It's Tuesday. Why would you be excited? It's Tuesday.
You know,
and
well,
in fact,
it came off a long weekend, you know?
Yeah, but it makes this Tuesday feel a lot like a Monday.
It is that these are true statements. There have never been truer statements made. You know, it's kind of like when you go on vacation. I don't know if anybody, listeners, if you feel this way, but I always feel this way. I go on vacation, I come back to work, and I ask, why did I leave for a week only to come back to all the work I didn't do for a week? This is...
Yep.
That's how today kind of was. It's fine. Yep. We're here recording, though. We're finally recording.
It's good.
This episode.
It's so finally. I mean, they don't know the difference, right? This is a
a
joke you always make with me. They don't know we're back. We're back.
Well, yeah, they don't know we're. Well, I mean, it's been a long night. Will, you guys, we've talked about this. We're talking about it a little bit more just here for a second. Will and I are starting a company called Harness Tech. You'll see more about it on the podcast. That's gonna be consulting, and because of that, we feel like our recording nights have been getting infringed by business discussion.
Feel like they have been. Absolutely,
they have certainly been doing that, and tonight was one of those as we jump into record. But I'm excited to talk about our productivity tips. But before we do, I warned Will I have a question for him. I want to get his hot take on before we even start talking about.
It's a hot take.
High tech topics. It's probably not a hot take. But I think it's hilarious. Okay, so short story here for you folks. I did not, when I eat lunch at work, I normally eat with our team. Like, our team's pretty close. We like to eat lunch together. We don't hate each other. But today I did not do that because of business things that we were doing that I had to do. So I'm walking over to throw my food away that I ate at my desk like a sad loner. And as I'm walking, a couple of coworkers, including Robin, who's been on our podcast before, told me I missed a great lunch conversation. They were talking about drunk stories, like drunks. Not them, but like people that they've come across,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
Okay. So I have some pretty, for coworkers, I have a couple people that, like, when they told me that, I just started laughing because there's like I don't even question that they've never drank in their entire lives. But we came up with a principle I'm curious, Will, if you agree with. Okay.
All right.
You ready for this? Drunk people are like birds. Give me your hot take on it. You agree with that statement? You disagree with that statement?
They're like birds, okay? They do squawk a lot. They make loud noises.
Loud.
They tend to get in their way. They're likely to be hit by vehicles.
Yes.
I'm seeing some comparisons.
You're finding ones I didn't even see yet.
They are likely to regurgitate their food.
There you go.
And vomit it. Wow, they sing a lot.
Exactly.
Karaoke comes to mind.
Karaoke?
Drunk people at karaoke.
Yeah.
You know, singing birds wake you up. They do things at the worst times, like singing early in the morning or in the middle of a call.
Accidentally flying into windows. Like, I've seen that. Right? Like running into doors. You and I were just talking about a story where you had to fend off somebody from a door who thought it was their house and it was not.
He was slamming into, the glass sliding door because he thought it was his. Okay, all right. You've got me convinced. I could see the comparison between
and
birds.
Also, like birds go to the bathroom anywhere. Sometimes drunk people also do that. Like, I'm just...
on my car, in my car, on my
whatever.
shirt.
Like, things happen, right?
Okay.
You know?
All right.
So this was our hot take today, that I really felt like I said it as a joke, and then I just kept finding more connections where I was like, you know what? Drunk people are like birds.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, birds are kind of just like nature's drunk person. You know what I mean?
It's amazing.
Like, they're just... Anyway, that has nothing to do with High Tech Podcast. That's just my thoughts, my musings of the day. And I wanted everybody to share in the experience.
This week, we're going to pivot from drunk people to productivity. Yes. I don't see a segue
from birds
there, so
to productivity.
I'm just going to call that one a wash.
We're just gonna wash into the real topic.
We're going to need to probably put this one into like ChatGPT or something, Notion AI, to get like a catchy SEO friendly, episode title. Cause like literally folks, our working title for this episode at the moment is, and I quote, Tech Productivity Tips / Be More Productive Using Tech.
Yeah.
That's it. That is the goal.
If you're listening to this and that was the title that was there when you found the episode, I'm sorry. We did not commit time to finding a better title. I think the title should be From Drunk Birds to Productivity. Like that's that's all.
Sounds fun.
Just working titles. Anyway, Will and I have talked about this a little bit this season on the High Tech Podcast. While we will still be talking about ed tech plenty of times, we wanted to free ourselves up to just kind of talk about some other random topics, things that we think you might find helpful. You may not, and you may want to tune out. Don't do that. That would be mean, but you can still continue to listen.
If you tune out, how will you ever learn about our app today? Like, come on, you got to get to the end.
You'll never know what we're about to talk. That is an ed tech app. But one of the things we need to talk about is, I don't know about you, Will, but I find, especially working with professors and faculty, I'm surprised by the level of things that people don't know exist in the technology world that can actually help them a lot.
Sure.
And like they sometimes look at what I'm doing and they're like, "You're a wizard, Harry," and I'm like, "I'm not." I just found apps. Like that's basically
Josh will say he's not a wizard, but I have to throw him under this bus, okay? And it's not a bad bus, my friend.
I did levitate somebody the other day. No, I'm just joking.
That's the news. I want to see.
I did
receipts.
Not do that. That would have been pretty awesome.
Josh has a mouse for his PC at home that has like 40,000 buttons on it, and yes, he can control video games like a wand. Like no. Don't tell me 12. You're not a wizard. Oh, 12. Yeah, sure. 40,000, 12. What's the difference? He has 12
a lot of
buttons.
Numbers, actually. Very, very.
Well, that's not even true. It's 12 numbered buttons, right? But you also have the right and left click and the wheel.
Yeah. I mean, I have the normal.
So it's like 15. It's like 16 or 17 buttons.
Sure.
It's closer to 40,000 than it is 12.
That is debatable. Actually, it's not even debatable. It's actually not true. Yeah. So anyway, but we're not suggesting incredible mice. I think Will and I want to talk a little bit about just like smaller tools and things that we've used or practices we've found
and
to be more productive. Like essentially
my
to
first
help organize your life a little bit.
I've got to start us off real easy, Josh. Got to start us nice and low. Like we're not swinging for home runs on this first one. I literally am bunting. Like if anybody watches baseball, I'm bunting. I'm trying.
Yeah, I don't. So that meant about half
hardest
of something to me right now.
Bunt this one.
Yeah.
Okay. My first productivity tip is, and this is going to several specific people in my life and my family. If you use this magic device called a mouse to scroll over to the right-hand side of your screen and click on the scroll bar and drag the scroll bar manually down, there is something these days called a scroll wheel on every single mouse you can purchase. Use your scroll wheel. It is a time saver. It is a productivity tool. I'm not joking. I still see so many family members, and I will observe that those family members are older than me. I will not stereotype, but I will observe that they're older than me, and they are used to a world in the internet where you had to always click that scroll bar. The scroll wheels were not always a thing. Man, if you take a moment to use your scroll wheel, but also just learn like all the things your mouse can do, that is a big productivity tip. Josh and I have, I think between us, probably 3 or 4 different types of mice for work and for personal that do different things. Like the video games one, each of those is a shortcut to make his video gaming faster. My work mouse has a copy and paste function in it. My work mouse has a back and forward function in it. My work mouse can refresh a page. Like I can do about 10 different things with my work mouse besides click. And that's just an example of like saving yourself time, improving your productivity, because if you have to take your hand off your mouse to do something with your keyboard or something, or if you have to take your hand off your keyboard to do something with your mouse, like that's slow. That is actually slowing you down. So make sure you scroll using your scroll wheel and consider your mouse as a productivity tool. There's so much more you can do with it if you learn to use the one you already have, or even buy one that's got lots of fun features in it. I think I pivoted that well from ridiculous to effective, right?
Yeah, that was good.
Good pitch.
When you first said it, I was like, okay, you're right. We're really not hitting home runs with
He doesn't watch baseball, guys.
We had to watch baseball with that one because I was like, yeah, it does. There's a scroll wheel. And in some people's defense, there is a time for dragging when you want to go the whole way down and you don't have a speed scroll like we do.
Sure.
Yeah, that's an area. This was not going to be one I was going to share, but Will inspired me, so I'm going to share it real quick. I didn't know how many people didn't know about this, but if you're on your computer and you hold Shift and use your scroll wheel on most apps or tools or Excel or things like that, that will activate side scrolling instead of scrolling up and down. So like if you want to side scroll around, if you hold Shift on your keyboard and you use your scroll wheel, that will side scroll on a page. There are some apps and stuff that don't recognize that shortcut, but like generally on the web and things it does. Did you not know that?
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
You want to know why I know that? Well, you know why I don't know that? Most of my mice have a horizontal scroll wheel.
My mouse, my MX.
I have a horizontal scroll wheel, so I would know that. But actually, sometimes that horizontal scroll wheel doesn't register on certain kinds of platforms. And I just went to the first one that I could think of, Google Sheets, and your little side scroll thing is perfect.
Yeah, so there you go. That's a fun little fact. If we're doing more mice things, people, if you have a scroll wheel and you click it in on a link or anything, just in case you're curious, that opens your thing in a new tab. So if you need to open web pages and things in a new tab, clicking in the little scroll wheel does that. So also, we weren't going to talk about mice so much, but I'm surprised by how many things people don't know about mice. I'm actually genuinely surprised Will didn't know Shift.
I did not know the Shift.
I feel good. I didn't know you didn't know that.
Did you know you could do this? Okay. Again with the scroll wheel and with the horizontals, what caught me because I have a horizontal scroll, right? I have a separate wheel on my mouse that can scroll horizontally. When that doesn't work, the thing I do is if you click and hold with your scroll wheel, you can drag up or down, left or right, and that will scroll up or down, left or right. If you click and hold with your scroll wheel, that'll take you in those directions, left or right, up and down.
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
Oh, dang it. Well, what Josh mentioned before is like infinite scroll wheels. Like one of my mouse has an infinite scroll wheel. You turn a button and it can scroll forever, almost forever. So that works. But like the mouse I'm using right now doesn't have an infinite scroll. So that's what I do. I can click and drag and just go from top to bottom of the site very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's enough about mice. Well, that's fun. I think we probably put a few of you to sleep. So let's do a more exciting tip here. So a couple things. Will and I have a handful of different apps and things we use that save us a bunch of time. So when we were thinking about what we wanted to share, I had a couple off the top of my head that I wanted to share from a productivity standpoint. And the reason we want to talk about this too, even from an education standpoint, in education today, you have to use your computer a ton. And there are stuff you can use that can really save you a lot of time. And one of them that I've changed extensions a bunch of times on this because they either get deactivated or they get sketchy, but this one has stayed strong. So first of all, if you don't know what I'm talking about, any of your browsers now, most of them are based off of what Google Chrome is, most of them. So there's a lot that have what we have been called for a long time Chrome extensions, but most of your like Internet Explorer and Firefox, I just called it Internet Explorer. Edge. And Firefox also have extensions now. You can get little apps that you can install into your browser that can save you time. And one of the ones that I install, I use Google Chrome, and it's called TextBlaze. The bigger thing is just called TextBlaze Snippets, blah, 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 blah. We will provide a link on our website to this. But TextBlaze, basically what it does is you can create little / snippets that will autofill text, right? So I can come into here and I have a dashboard and I have a couple different things. So one of the things I use all the time is I place my Zoom link and stuff all the time for people. And instead of having to find it, I was able to create a shortcut where I hit /ZZOM instead of the full word Zoom because I type that all the time. So that was super annoying. So I did /ZZOM. If I do that on my keyboard anywhere in my browser, it auto populates my Zoom link into the text. So you get like this little sound and it drops the Zoom link in. That has been super helpful. I use it for like our Zencaster link, Will, when we populate stuff, different emojis and things. But the thing that I found it really useful for, actually, in an ed tech sense, is when I was teaching, and I'm going to use it again this fall, is when I was providing feedback. So a lot of LMSs have some tools for this, like Canvas does and things like that. But I find them sometimes cumbersome and not really what I want to use. So I got TextBlaze, and what I would do is if I started finding that I was using the same type of feedback or sentences in a lot of my assignments, like a lot of my assignments, I do a lot of annotated feedback that was different, but the general comment I gave, there was usually like an end paragraph that was very similar to everybody. Right. Like it was like a statement I wanted to remind them about something or something like that. I could actually go take that text and put it into TextBlaze. So I was able to like do / let's just say RR, right? And that would provide a whole paragraph for me for students. I actually even at one point used TextBlaze to program in / 80% and through like percentages, so that depending on how students did on the assignment, my backslashing would actually, if I was like, oh, they got a 70% or lower, /70, it gave me a template text for the overall comment that I wanted. Because there was some stuff I usually repeated or like pointed them towards.
Right.
So that saved me a ton of time from copy and pasting, putting stuff over. There's a lot of different uses for this that I know people use for it. But so it's called TextBlaze. We'll provide a link. It's a Chrome extension. If you just search it up, it's got like an orangey white fire logo that you can do.
I've never downloaded cool. this. He's told me about it a ton of times. The first thing I'm going to make is something like /high-tech or /high-social or something like that. HTS, high-tech social. How many times I can tell you I've had to like go and get all the links that we have and like put them somewhere. I could just type /HTS or whatever I'm going to do, and it's going to boop, 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 all the links right there in front of me. Josh, why have I never done this?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say that I started the idea. Somebody else in our office, Eric, he had a version of this that he clued me into, and I ever since then have kind of dove deep into the TextBlaze option. This is not a productivity tip, but I am going to just share something real quick tech-wise. Another extension, if you're ever looking for another extension, there's an extension called Dark Reader. If you are like me and you hate anything that's not dark mode on the web, Dark Reader is by far the best dark mode extension I've ever found. It makes everything dark. You can program what sites it does. You can change the contrast settings on it. It's not really a productivity thing. It's more of just like making my life better. But if you want,
I think you're saying that probably because like I decided to record tonight with my lights generally off, listener, if you're not watching. But Josh is probably seeing like as I'm using my internet, like I keep white flashes and
stuff.
That
was not why I was saying it. It's just right next to my TextBlaze option. So that is part of the reason I'm using it. I can't take credit for that as well. Another member of our office, Drew, if he by chance somehow listens to this, he is the one who tagged me onto that extension.
Look at you, all credit tonight. I love it. Credit. I'm going to go back to keyboard commands. I am still a huge keyboard command person, so I'll probably have an app, hopefully, or something significant by the end of this conversation. But one of my number one things that drives me nuts about copy and paste, or about using digital content. If I'm using digital content that's already somewhere, I want to use it in the same place somewhere else. I don't want to have to make it again, make a copy of it. Like copy and paste, super important. I think it takes a lot of time. If you still right click on something to copy it and then right click to paste it, like Control-C, Control-V, or Command-C, Command-V on the keyboard, super important, but more important than those. And I gotta say, I'm not sure if I know that Mac has this feature. That's dumb on me. But the clipboard can actually be accessed. Your actual clipboard where all that stuff gets saved can be accessed on a PC, on a Windows device, by using the Windows icon and the letter V. Windows V will bring up your clipboard, and it'll show you everything you've copied since probably the last time you turned your computer on, or like you can clear this manually if you want to, but most folks don't clear it and they don't know that it's there. If I bring mine up, my clipboard right now, it has a couple of links we were using tonight. It has a picture of something I use often for work. It has the link to to Blaze, text Blaze that Josh was just sharing with me. Like, it's really useful. And I'll say it saves me a lot of time, because more than just like, oh, let me look at what's in my clipboard history. You can pin things there so you can use them more frequently. This actually speaks to kind of the text Blaze approach, right? Like, if you often say thank you and have a great day, you can copy that, save it in your clipboard, and paste it anytime you want. Quick things, even like what we're saying with these text blazes, you could save things like that, but I think that text blaze is much more useful for your browser. You can, when you're in your clipboard, Windows V again, see things like screenshots, right? If I took a screenshot, I can go back and see that it's still there, and I could, the thing that always happened to me if I took a screenshot would be I'd lose it. After I pasted it, I lost it if I didn't save it as a file somewhere. So as long as you know it's still in your clipboard, you can get back to that screenshot and use it again. One of my top 2 pinned items in my personal computer is an image of something I send to people all the time. And so it's like, I would always have to, like, if I needed to send this screenshot, I'd always have to go back to the device, log into the platform, get into that area, take that screenshot, and send it to someone. I just learned about clipboard. I saved it there. I never have to take the screenshot ever again. You can clear it, so be careful, but it's a pretty good one. I think all of us copy and paste. And so being more productive when we copy and paste is all the better.
Yeah. And let's be honest, folks, that picture is a picture of my face. We all know. Yep. Will resends that to people all the time.
When I just want to be like, have you seen
this guy?
Wonderful beard on the face of this planet?
And then he proceeds to send a picture of Jason Momoa.
Ooh.
Yeah, come on. Great beard. Yes, okay, so I will make up for the apps for us today, since Will is finding other computer things. So, other app I would recommend to people to check out. This is a little bit more techie, but it is a productivity app that I would never get rid of, that I love. That this is another one I keep telling Will about, and I don't know if he's ever actually downloaded it. There is something called Power Toys for Windows. Now, it is techie because it's on GitHub. If you know what that is, if you're listening, you're like, what the heck is GitHub? Don't worry. I will provide information on our website about how to easily download the app. But basically what Power Toys is this is an open source tool that these nerds made, and they've continued to update for Windows, and they're using it a ton. It's made by some people with Microsoft, but it's basically a tool to turn your computer into a productivity steroids device. Like, there's a bunch of stuff they use on it. The thing I use the most that Will knows about is this thing called Fancy Zones in it, and it has a great title. But basically, what Fancy Zones is so anytime you're using your computer, if you know. If you've ever experienced this, right, you can grab Windows, you can grab your browser, you can do whatever you want, you can, and drop it into kind of like split screened mode, right? Like where it kind of gives you options for where to put stuff on a window in a grid, right? If you've ever done that before. I don't actually know what Microsoft calls that. Is there a specific name for it? I haven't used it in forever now because I have this tool.
Snapping.
Snap. That's what it is.
Yeah, if you snap.
So you snapping, right?
Because I use that.
Yeah, and I still use it to a certain extent, right? That's super helpful. But what Fancy Zones allows you to do is actually program, and not program because that makes it sound terrifying. Basically, just it gives you this option to put this grid on your computer's screens and decide the ratio of what you want the windows to look like. So an example would be, right? Let's say I always like to have my chat tool in a certain size on one window, right? Like, if you've ever been like me, you used to use probably Snap, and then you'd resize it and you'd make sure it stays that way. And usually it stays that way. But what I can actually do is create a little box that any window, if I hold Shift and click on it and drag it over there, any app or window I have will drop into that box and size automatically to that size. So I use this all the time because I can program in different organizational zones that I use. So I have one for the podcast, right? That has a specific setup that I split my screen a certain way. I have one for work that I split my screen a certain way. Taking it to academics when I was doing online courses and I was teaching on Zoom with students, I had certain zone designs set up for my windows that I would use to keep my notes open or have Zoom in one area. and have canvas in another area, right? And I would use this all the time. And what's super cool about this is, unlike in Windows where you have to switch desktops to kind of get a similar setup like this, I can actually just hit 2 keys on my keyboard, any that I'd like to program, hit 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it switches between the different options I've set up. So in seconds, I can switch between my different zones. It's made it super easy for organizing my screen in a way that I can see a lot of information. One last thing I'll mention about this, it's super helpful when you're recording videos. Any of you have had to record lectures or things like that, there's always this thing where like you want to have a certain setup on your screen so you can see the information you need, but you can still see the recording tool, or you can use your annotation tools, right? And so I was always trying to get the perfect setup. I've programmed in now zones for recording videos that I just hit my buttons on my keyboard, switch to the right zone setup, move my, video recording tool into its little zone, move my stuff into its little zone, and within seconds I've got my whole screens organized the way I want it to, and it'll stay that way, which is super cool.
That's like, he's told me about this so many times, podcast listeners, and I've never bought into it, but every time he tells me, I'm like, that's so awesome.
I love it. It's super cool. Just real quick, just a couple other notes about power tools. They don't just do fancy zones. So they have like, if you're ever designing things, if you're listening to this and you're doing designs for courses or things, and obviously if you're in Canva and stuff, you have a tool that allows you to pick colors from things. But if you ever wished you could just do that generally across your computer, if you have, Power Tools has a thing called Color Picker. It allows you to pick colors and get the hex codes for any color on your screen, no matter what app you're in or what you're using.
Yes.
It is super helpful from a course development side. Our team uses it all the time to find colors for stuff when they're trying to color coordinate images and things like that.
I can't tell you how many different things I do. Like I'll take a screenshot and put it in some other platform and use the color picker in that platform to get the screenshot of it. Like that would save me a lot of time and frustration.
Yes, exactly. And then a couple other things they have like a screen roller thing that you can bring up that'll show you the size of any window or anything like that at any point, and give you your ratio size. They have text, like a keyboard manager that allows you to do some like remapping of your keyboard and create custom shortcuts for text inputs. I'm not going to go into all of it. It's a super powerful tool. I really like it. It's called Power Tools, and it has definitely helped my productivity on my computer. So
one of my issues, or I guess speed bumps with this topic, is like the things that I'm productive in are specialty. I don't know. Like I'm trying to think, Josh, I don't have too many things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so, okay. Keyboard commands, keystrokes. Yeah. Like if we were talking about Audacity, I could tell you how I've done so many things productively in Audacity or in Camtasia, or like I use a lot of tools that way. So one of the things I would encourage folks and those listening in on is like, hey, think that through when you're using one of your applications. The first time I had this work in my favor was Adobe Premiere Pro. And I'm sneaking up to a meaning. I'll just say my meaning. When you're optimizing and using a tool, learn its shortcuts. Learn how to use the tool as easily as possible. Not all tools require this, right? But like Audacity has some things that are, shortcuts, keyboard commands you can customize. You can use Adobe Premiere Pro. Almost everything you can do in Adobe Premiere Pro has a shortcut, has a keyboard shortcut. Josh is speaking about text blaze and how you can literally turn anything into a keyboard shortcut on your browser in Chrome and Edge and Brave, and probably not Safari because it sucks. But when we're thinking about Adobe Premiere, my experience there, right? Like I was brand new to the product. I never used it before in my entire life. I'd seen it and was like, oh my gosh, it's so intimidating. And so I jumped on a couple LinkedIn learning courses. And as I listened to the LinkedIn learning course, they would literally stop me like, hey, and remember, this command is /. It's really easy. It helps you. So like if you're on a timeline, you've zoomed in, / brings it out to fit. It zooms out to total fit. I mean, like if I think about the comparison between hitting one letter / or scrolling while holding control, or like going in the platform and clicking around to like scroll and pinch things to make it bigger, it's just so much easier to learn those keyboard commands. I had a spreadsheet of probably 30 commands that I would just keep up on one screen while I was working in Adobe Premiere when I was using it so frequently. And by a couple weeks of doing that, I didn't need the sheet anymore, right? But like those 30 commands were saving me so much time because I didn't have to click around the platform. I didn't have to look and search for something. Like that's what these productivity tips are about. If you remember a pathway for how to click on something, that's good. And if it becomes so easy for you to you don't have to think about it, that's even better. But making that pathway as short as it possibly can be is the ultimate time saver. If you have to think, okay, take my mouse, scroll up to the top of the screen, hover over window, click on window, window will drop down. Then my eyes have to scan window, go over to scenes, go from scenes over to the right because the panel drops out to the right. So you're like following this little trail and you have to do this visually and you have to move your mouse the whole time. And then, you have to highlight and click on scene 4 because you want to shift to editing, right? Like Adobe would say use Alt Shift 4 and it's going to take you to that immediately. Your hands are so much easier and so much quicker going to get to Alt Shift 4 without even looking and make that change than you do having to like watch your mouse, click on all that stuff and follow that. Like keyboard commands, keystrokes, things you can just do like physical response are so much faster. And Josh and I know this from video game playing, right? Like when you're playing video games, you use probably 20 maybe 15 letters on your keyboard, like WASD, QER, Z, X, CV, space, tab, shift. Like there's a bunch of letters you use in there.
Yeah.
And when we're playing video games, we're not looking at them like, okay, where's D? All right, there's D. Like you just press the buttons. These are, to me, examples of why, like at a productivity level, getting into your platform, learning its keyboard commands, and reducing as much as possible, reduce what you use your mouse for is going to make you all the more productive. Like again, Josh, I don't have power toys or text plays, but like I do that with every tool that I use, and it makes me more productive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think shortcuts are a big thing. Like you learn them on the tools you're in, learn what your computer does, because it can, like, that's the stuff that we remember. Like a shortcut that I'm always amazed people don't know is like if you hit Control R, that refreshes any screen that you're on. The amount of people who always drag up to that little circle with an arrow, like just hit Control R. It's fine. Another quick shortcut, if you hold Control and you use your scroll bar on your mouse, that will change the zoom on your browser. Like, so it'll change how much you're zoomed in on a page. If you've ever wanted to zoom in and out on a page, that is the easiest way to do it.
How many times my mom had to call me, William, why is my screen so big?
Yeah.
All right, Mom. Is there a little magnifying glass up in the very top? I don't know. I can't see it. All right. Well, work with me here. All right. Hold Control and scroll back. Wow. Oh, it's too small. I can't read it. Well, dial it in, Mom. You'll get there eventually. Yeah. Find 100.
Now, before we go to our next section, I would be remiss if I don't say this. Okay? There is one thing that if I could recommend that has made me more productive in general, and I talk about them all the time, to the point that I probably annoy my one coworker. I've been trying to convince him to come over. He won't come over yet. Notion. Okay? This is all I say. Notion has been super helpful for me for a lot of different reasons. I'm not going to get into all of the things, but one of the things, the concept that I would say that's been most helpful is what a lot of productivity people will call like the second brain concept. You can't remember everything. And the people I often meet that let things fall through the cracks or are like, oh, I just can't get my mind around everything, are the ones who are often relying on their memory or like random Word documents on their computer to keep track of information for them. Notion is an incredible tool that allows you to create database information and things in there to search things. Everything I need to remember is in Notion for me, from tasks to notes. But there are a ton of people who don't go as complicated as I do. I've seen people who've created like just pages where they keep track of all their tasks for the week. and they store all their information. So Notion has been an incredible
super
tool for me.
searchable. Like that's why they might do it, right? As long as they have a
searchable.
word in there, they can search it and find that page.
They can put it in there. Like our team just implemented a knowledge base for the whole team in Notion, and literally our team can hit Control P in Notion, and it brings up this search tool that they can search anything, any words, and it will search the text across hundreds of pages and find the information for them. That's how I've remembered things. I take all my notes, all my stuff is in Notion, and so it's so easy for me to find stuff in there. Notion even has a web clipper tool that I can clip information out of emails and websites and put it inside my Notion database so I can find information that I want to find later. So I'd be remiss if I did not mention that. Find something that you can track what you're doing and your information that you want to remember in a easily accessible way. And I know people who like pen and paper, and that's totally fine. Like if you have notebooks and stuff you want to do it, I would encourage you though to consider digital solutions, because there are a lot of really cool tools out there like Notion, like another tool called Obsidian, that are trying to create these kind of connected networks of information for you at a personal level so that it's so much easier to find what you need to know. Because no matter who we are, our brains cannot remember everything we need to do or remember. And so tools have become a very helpful resource for me in that area, like Notion.
We got pretty detailed there. I mean, down to like keyboard strokes and which ones to use and whatever. It was almost the atomic level that we got into with that study. I think we should zoom out a little bit.
You do? You think we should leave the atomic level
to something
different?
Specific? More specific.
So maybe more specific, or I don't know. More...
We should just search for something. What do you think?
Yeah, we should search for something. Okay, that was a horrible transition on our mind. Now it was better than our earlier one where we couldn't figure out how to transition from drunk birds. So when we were thinking about an app to talk about, I suggested to Will that we actually talk about a app called Atomic Search, by a company called Atomic Jolt. Okay, now this is a very specific tool. It's mainly accessible in Canvas. I've known about it for quite a while, but my team finally got to test it over the last couple weeks because Atomic Search is incredible people. They've been super helpful. We were working with them to try to get a contract to use their tool because they're not free. I will admit this. This is not one of our freemium tools that Will and I are talking about. But their pricing's not that bad. But of course, in normal 2023 fashion, we lost budget to do that. But they still allowed us to test it for like a month to see whether we liked it or not. So I've been able to use it a lot over the last couple of weeks. And I really just want to talk about it for a second. If you're listening to this podcast and you use Canvas in any way, I encourage you to go check out Atomic Jolt and Atomic Search specifically. Now, they have a bunch of other apps. I haven't tested those, but I've tested Atomic Search. Basically what Atomic Search allows you to do, it's an app that connects into Canvas, and it indexes your entire Canvas instance. So it looks across all the courses, everything that exists in your Canvas, and then through some help from them, you can add a little search bar at the top left corner of everywhere in Canvas. And so what it allows you to do is students can click into this bar, professors can click into the search bar, and literally search text across all of their courses. So a couple applications of this, right? Let's say a student, you guys were talking about tanks, week 4, okay? Bringing it back in your tanks course. You were talking specifically about cannons, because that's a big thing in tanks. We've been talking about tanks courses a while.
I don't think we've talked about it even in season 4 at all.
I don't know. Good. So anyway, tanks, you're in your Tanks 101 course. You're trying to remember, where did our professor talk about building cannons, right? You don't remember which week it's in. And normally in LMSs, the problem is you end up clicking around in the week, seeing if you find the right information. Maybe if you're smart, you hit Control F on the page that you're on and see if you can find something, but it's not searching literally any written text or file. Atomic Search, with that being in your course, your student can click on the search bar, type in cannons, because now I don't know how often that would come up in Tanks 101. That might be hard to find, but cannons, they can type in cannons, and that Atomic Search app will search every page, assignment, and file in the course for the word cannons, and will produce an indexed search option like Google based on the relevancy of the text they type in, stuff like that. And they'll be able to find it, and they'll be able to click directly into that option. I tested this a bunch, and other than one very unique bug that our team found that I was really impressed that we found, it worked amazingly. It was super easy to find information. That applies to an instructor too. As an instructor, if I've been in those situations. I'm trying to remember, where did I write about cannons in Tanks 101?
Right.
Or, you know what, we're going to talk this week about, drive shifts. We know nothing about tanks.
Treads.
Treads. We're going to talk about treads. Where did I talk about tread creation in my files over the last several years? You could type that in the search box and it'll find all that information immediately for you in Canvas. It's super cool. It doesn't just do individual courses either. It will have a search bar on a dashboard, so a student can search every single one of their courses. You as an instructor can search every single one of your courses for that information. And there's filter options and stuff like that. It's pretty sweet what it does.
I'm putting this out there right now. World Internet listener, it is 8:45 p.m. on May 30th. Okay, I'm time stamping this idea. If Atomic Jolt takes this, I'm gonna go and work on my commission. One of those big issues, of course, with pricing is not all institutions are gonna. As soon as you said it's just like Google, I'm like, well, where are the ads then? If Atomic Search put in an ad with every search, boom. You know what I mean? Right there. You could give it away for free. You could let institutions use it for free. It just maybe in the top 5 search results, there was an ad from Google or something like that. Boom.
I mean,
they
that's
could
an
offer
idea.
their product for free. So Atomic Search, if you ever hear this, I'd be glad to consult on this idea. Work on my commission rate for it. The hardest tech company can take the commission. Yeah,
I don't fully support this idea. Just
you don't want ads in front of students.
What? What's it gonna be? I'm looking for cannons. It's have you tried this pistol? Is it algorithms ads too? It's working off your data. This has worked so well for us with Google. They have not abused this power at all. So I don't see how.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying it could make a lot of money, and I want to be in.
Idea. Okay. Well, that could be a thing. I will say, for what their tool does, the pricing is reasonable in my opinion. So
cool.
Check them out. The only other thing I was going to mention is one other example of use for this would be if you work in the context of where Will and I work, where you're constantly having to change content out of a course, like textbooks go bad or the new edition. This can search literally everything and find it. We were testing it, and I was able to find every place in a course that mentioned the textbook that I needed to switch out, which was pretty.
Can you replace all?
Freaking awesome. You cannot replace all. In their defense, it's a search tool. It's
that'd be dangerous. Could you imagine replace all and somebody just
yeah, that would be crazy. Anyway, Atomic Search, go check it out by the company Atomic Jolt. They're a fantastic tool, and I highly recommend them. Anyway, next on the High Tech Podcast, we deal with the intense topics like, should birds drink before the age 18? Should private search companies do Google ads? Just these intense topics. We really bring it. No, I'm just joking. We did not do any of that.
We should make that an episode sometime.
Yeah. Next week we are going to have a guest join us, Mark Beggart. I should have asked Mark beforehand. Beggart. This one's going to be a tough one, folks, because I also screw up that name regularly. We're going to have Mark Beggart join us next week from the app Fabulingua. Did I get it right?
That's it.
Okay. I do know the app. Will and I love this app. I mispronounce the name all the time. It's not my strong suit. Anyway, Mark is going to be joining us to talk about his app and really what the revolutionary and crazy stuff they're doing in language acquisition and how they're using stories and game design to pull that off. If that does not get you excited, I don't know who you are, and you should join us. Come on.
Listen to the episode. You'll get excited.
Yes, it is a really cool episode, so you should check that out. That is going to be next week on episode 104 of the High Tech Podcast. Just a reminder, you can find us on Twitter and YouTube at High Tech Podcast. Please go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Even if you don't watch our videos. First of all, what the heck? Our faces are there for you all the time. I know you like
Gosh.
listening to us, but come on.
I'm even sporting a beard tonight, or most of
Yeah,
the
you got
beginnings of
some
a
facial
beard.
hair. I didn't comment on that. You also, if you're not watching us, you have no idea how much Will matches with his chair right now, to the point that I'm not sure I can see his body on a regular basis.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, you do it. Oh, you're wearing black pants too. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so if you are listening, you gotta visualize. Trust me, seeing it in real life is worth it. Go subscribe to the High Tech Podcast on YouTube. You can also get a hold of us by emailing us at inbox@hightechpod.us and check out our website, hightechpod.us, where we will be putting a lot of information about the productivity apps that we just talked about on this episode. If you want to get access to them quickly, go check out our website and you can do that. So thank you again for joining us for another week as we continue to learn what it looks like to harness technology in the classroom for productivity, whether online or in person or on the back of a bird. See ya.
See ya.